Hey, hey.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Island Show. It's the first time we've done one of these in a while due to crazy life circumstances and all the weird stuff going on in the world.
And not the least of that, Nick, is WordPress decided to update itself, and so our website's not working, and they got to reinstall WordPress. There's
Yeah,
another reason why we haven't done this in a while.
that's not fun. But this is an island that I wanted to talk to about for a while. I was going to save it for when I was going to go there, but due to the pandemic, it might be a while. So we're going to discuss Bermuda. Bermuda is a world famous island for a lot of reasons. So, but we'll start with the basics. Brian, what are some key facts about Bermuda that start this conversation?
So, Bermuda is a fairly small island about 600 miles southeast of North Carolina, almost due south of Newfoundland in Canada. And it has a really, really interesting backstory of how it was originally founded. So the Portuguese and the Spanish had both stopped there, but nobody settled the island and there were no indigenous humans there. So there was actually a Jamestown resupply mission that launched from England in 1609 that was meant to go to Jamestown and was blown off course in storms and was shipwrecked on Bermuda. So the winter there was the first settled winter there of human history, and the resupply mission had to rebuild their own boats before getting back in them and going back to Jamestown, and then from there the island got settled from the British and became a British Crown protectorate, and it's spent its entire history under the British Crown from being settled in 1609, that first winter, to now. It's always been under the British Crown.
Yeah, but it's at the same time, it's not technically part of the. It's part of the United Kingdom, but it's its own like kind of has its own little devolved
Well,
government.
yes, much like much of the British Empire, just like Canada, you know, they may have the Queen on their money, but that doesn't mean that the UK has.
The
You're not
UK
a
has
U.
more control over Bermuda than Canada has no control anymore, whereas it's still part of the
Yes,
United
no,
Kingdom.
no, no. In fact, the Falkland Islands, you get to be a full citizen. You don't get to be a full citizen in Bermuda. You're not an EU citizen. You are a separate entity citizen under the British Crown.
I did not know that because economically, Bermuda is actually a pretty prosperous place. Its GDP per capita is over 100,000 US dollars a year and fourth in the world. And yeah,
I
it's
mean,
got
it's a vacation destination now. But you want to cover any more of the history, because it's actually got a lot of really interesting history
all right.
too.
I'll let you keep going with the history then.
So much of the trade and shipbuilding and commerce from the island of Bermuda was to the American colonies, which presented a real problem during the American Revolutionary War when they were no longer allowed to trade with their largest trading partner. So, to prevent starvation on the island, they continued to trade with the American colonies, including a large supply of gunpowder stolen from the British, traded by the I don't know, citizens of Bermuda. This led to there actually being man of war from Britain stationed on the island through the remainder of the Revolutionary War, and a matter of royalists versus trying to trade just to make money and being a privateer. And then on the flip side, during the American Civil War, they went from supplying the Americans and running the British to instead running Confederates, supplying the Confederates. So the island has just done whatever was best for the island, which is, to everybody, that's probably a good decision to watch out for your own self interest. But Confederate blockade runners would go to Bermuda to trade their cotton for supplies or resupply on their way to Europe.
So, what about their modern history, like post the Civil War? Anything noteworthy?
Well, from the Civil War, there was actually a period of time in the First World War and Second World War where Bermuda was a station for submarines and naval station, and actually a large censorship program with 1,000+ employees censoring all the news going in and out of the United States to Europe and back. So they had 1,000+ censors there trying to catch German spies.
So, why
And
would that? Is that because all the wiring for the sea connected through Bermuda?
well, no, not necessarily that, but when you were looking at where you wanted to put sensors, people that could learn and see things, you also wanted those people to be separated from the rest of Europe, right? So they were in their own enclave. They couldn't exactly go home and say, "Guess what I know about the war." And so you could censor the censors by having them isolated on an island in between the United States and England and Europe. And then in modern history, they've gone through several different uh, political changes in the 1960s. And when the UK went to make citizenship changes, mainly around Hong Kong, they stripped away the rights in the 80s of Bermudans to be full citizens of the UK, allowing them freedom of movement and EU citizenship. The only exceptions to that legislation was the Falkland Islands and the people who live on Gibraltar.
Why did they strip the Bermudans particularly?
Oversight mostly, lack of caring. The population is tiny, and there's nobody representing them in Parliament.
All right. So then I'll get more to some. Bermuda has a really interesting role in finance. Let's just say historically as well. Um, it became a major tax haven after World War II because uh, they had basically no income tax and very low taxes in other ways. Similar, it's in a way it's kind of
Well,
similar to what happened in the Cayman Islands. In the
well, actually, one step before that, Nick, they had their economy decimated by the Smoot-Hawley tariff in the 1930s or 20s. I forget. When does that tariff come into effect?
the 1930, it was right after the Great Depression started.
And so they lost their ability to export to the US and be competitive. And so they had to diversify their economy. And it was after World War II. Go on talking about insurance and financials.
Yeah, there's a lot of accounting in Bermuda. It's an offshore financial center. There is there is no direct taxation on personal or corporate income. However, it has one of the highest tariffs in the world and also one of the highest consumption slash sales taxes in the world. That's how they pay for their government there. And they also have made it in recent years.
What kind of what kind of tariffs do they have? Just on
It's on
any
all
import?
imports. It's not very. It's very broad based, and so
How do they
therefore,
compare for financial services to the Cayman Islands and other
I
Gulf
mean,
islands?
it's similar, but the Cayman is a much more popular alternative, at least for like setting up hedge funds and other financial firms, because um, for I think for a few reasons. One, its time zone is more favorable. Cayman Islands is on the central and eastern time zones, whereas the Bermuda is on the Atlantic time zone, which is 1 hour later than the East Coast. It's the same as a lot of Caribbean islands, such as Puerto Rico and Barbados and stuff like that. And the UK has been more aggressive on cracking down on Bermuda historically than the Caymans. I think Bermuda historically was the first place that people traditionally associated offshore finance. And then after Bermuda, the financial authorities got a little bit tougher on Bermuda, they've started to, I think, drift to other places. Uh, the other thing is that it's still very popular though among corporations, though maybe not financial firms, but like Google is famous for using Bermuda as a path to keep its tax liabilities down. For example, according to the Wikipedia page for Bermuda, and I think they're more popular in terms of corporate income tax for big multinationals versus setting up alternative investments. The other thing with Bermuda is that
How will Brexit affect all of this for them?
I don't think it will because it's not part of the EU. It never was part of the EU.
Okay, so they didn't have access to EU banking or any of those benefits of being in the EU?
I don't think so, but again, I haven't done too much research on Bermuda banking system. The other thing that they keep a lot of British traditions. Like they do drive on the left there, and similar to Cayman, their currency is not the British pound, but it is the Bermudan dollar. And the Bermudan dollar,
Is that tied to the pound?
no, I do not think it is tied to the pound. I think it's tied to the U.S. dollar actually, and I think that they don't. I think the reason for that is because I think they do more trade with the U.S. than the U.K. and they have more tourism. It's paid at a fixed rate of 1 to 1.
So the main benefit of having that currency is for the transaction fees converting in and out of the currency when you visit on holiday.
Yeah, it's about 1% transaction fee in and out.
So
It's a
they
foreign
get to
currency
make
purchase
1%.
tax. I think it's another way they try to get you in Bermuda. I mean, with those zero income tax, you got to make it come from somewhere.
So, Nick, do you believe in the Bermuda Triangle?
Um, I mean, I've heard a lot of stories about the Bermuda Triangle. I remember as a kid at SeaWorld, they used to have this virtual reality like simulator ride called the Bermuda Triangle, where you were like in an airplane turned submarine that went through the Bermuda Triangle, and weird stormy stuff would happen. It's one of my favorite things to do whenever I went to SeaWorld was go to the Bermuda Triangle. They changed it, I think, to a polar themed version called Wild Arctic, I think like 15 years ago. But I remember that as a kid at the Bermuda Triangle. And there actually have been a lot of planes mysteriously disappear in there. It's the land, basically, the ocean area between Bermuda at one point, the northern point of the triangle, Puerto Rico at the eastern point of the triangle, and the western point of the triangle is Miami. And I haven't really heard about the Bermuda Triangle much since the 1990s, though.
I think with the more we connect planes with GPS, the less likely it is we lose them. Then again, Malaysian Airlines managed to do it pretty well.
Yeah, but you don't
So
really
it's still a
see like
thing.
that. I mean, maybe pilots are better and technology is better because you don't really see a bunch of people crash at the same area like happened in the Bermuda Triangle in the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah, it definitely has become less of a thing. But, we're only one plane going missing from it coming back in full force.
Yeah, and it's less of a thing too is just Bermuda offshore finance. Like Bermuda was famous, like maybe not in the mainstream world, but in the Wall Street world for like rogue traders going to move there to avoid taxes or to avoid the IRS or to avoid like like getting in trouble for dodgy financial transactions. Like there are these two guys in the 90s
So
known as the Bermuda Boys who were really successful traders and they just packed their bags from New York and moved to Bermuda for 20 years until they retired from trading, and then they came back to the States and didn't have to pay tax on any of their profits apparently.
So, Nick, if you were to have the cheapest flight to Bermuda go through Miami, would you do it or would you take the one from further north just to avoid the Bermuda Triangle?
I thought it's through New York is where, or Charlotte is where you go. It's a lot faster if you go through Charlotte than Miami.
But that wasn't the point of the question. Would you avoid flying through the Bermuda Triangle?
It depends on the time difference. I probably would avoid flying through the Bermuda Triangle, to be honest.
If it was the cheapest, fastest option, I'd go through the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, but you can go straight from Miami to Bermuda without going through the triangle.
Okay, fine. I mean, the point being, I'm not afraid of going through it.
I'm not that afraid of going through it either. But
But but speaking of how it's not that close to the U.S., it's a solid 600 miles is not a short flight,
yeah,
and
I mean, it's a 2 hour flight from New York. A lot of New Yorkers like to go there in the winter. But the thing is, it's not that warm compared to like the other
no, it's not
Caribbean islands.
tropical; it's subtropical.
Yeah, it's like going to say like South Carolina in the winter, right? Versus going to like Barbados or the Cayman Islands, which is warm and tropical in the winter.
Right, but on the bright side, in the summer, it's not sweltering.
So like
The
what is
highs
like
are low
typical
90s.
like what's the typical climate day? Like it doesn't even get that hot in the Caribbean in the summer. It gets like 90s. Low 90s is the most. The
Well,
problem with the
I think
Caribbean
the hottest that they have hurricanes in Bermuda as well. Uh, they get hit rather often, and actually, the warmest day you're going to see in the summers in the low 90s. The warmest day you're going to see right now in February is going to be 68. So, like the lowest high is around 68.
Yeah, it seems
So
like
it's
it's the same
subtropical.
temperature.
It's nice.
Yeah, it's not that much cooler than the Caribbean, the rest of the Caribbean in the summer, but it's a lot cooler in the winter. It still
I,
doesn't
I
get that it doesn't get that cold though.
no, it doesn't get cold. It's just slightly colder than the warmer Caribbean islands.
But why do you think that Bermuda is so much warmer than North Carolina?
The ocean.
But even coastal North Carolina.
No, coastal go is west coasts. So there's something most people don't realize, but for the same latitude, a western facing coast will be warmer than an eastern facing coast of the same latitude. Think Alaska. Alaska has a lot more rain and it's a lot warmer than Siberia. And and one of the coldest uh, um, it doesn't snow regularly on the coast going all the way up to Seattle, but it snows on the coast on the eastern side of the US going down pretty far into South Carolina. It gets more and more rare the further south you go.
But it does snow. It's snowing in Texas right now. So
And it's snowing in Texas.
it can get there on a particularly bad break.
So because Bermuda's an island, they've got western water and the Gulf Stream. So like all the way up to the UK. The UK it rarely snows. In the southern UK it's much further north, but it's a western facing. Um, it's got ocean to the west of it, and the reason is because the Earth spins, so the jet stream goes from west to east.
Yeah. I mean, and the rain is pretty consistent there. It's not like the Cayman where it rains a lot half the year and it doesn't rain the other half of the year. Like the average
Yes, and then
precipitation is about the same throughout the year, except for May, it's a little less.
so this actually is a major point of concern for the islanders. There is where they get their clean water for living. There's regulation, there's a law that says that every household must collect all the rainwater off its roof. And so almost every house on the island has a tank built into the basement or under the house that is for rainwater. There are only a couple saltwater to there's freshwater lenses. So a freshwater lens is where you have a sandbank in the ocean, like island in the ocean, where fresh water falls and actually creates like a lens, kind of like you would have in glasses of fresh water, and you can pump water out of that. So there's four of those that are fairly large, and then there's a couple of aquifers too that they can get fresh water from, but it's rather limited.
So, well, thinking of that, tell us. Let's what about what? Talk to us more about the demographics of Bermuda. Like, what are the people like there, and what's it like to live in Bermuda?
It's, as far as I can tell, wonderful to live there. From what I can see on YouTube, I want to go visit. Do you agree, Nick?
I mean, yeah, I'd like to go on vacation. They have a kind of very distinct architecture there. They're kind of like Caribbean houses, but a little bit more like not like sturdy necessarily, but they look like a little bit more like structured because it's not as like laid back, and they don't have to um, and the hurricane thing is not as, I guess they're not as strong there. Um, but all the roofs are white architecturally in Bermuda. Uh, there's a lot of nice
And
resorts. There's
and
apparently
there's
good
lots
golf.
of millionaires.
Yeah, apparently there's a lot of good golf courses there. And yeah, demographically,
Yeah, it's millionaires row.
it's probably the wealthiest any region that is majority black in the world by far.
Yes, and so I mean the reason why it's a majority black country is it was a major stopping point for the slave trade coming from Africa to all of the Americas.
Yeah, there is also a sizable European and Asian population there too. And religiously, it's mostly Protestants and Anglicans, and there's a few and 15% Catholic.
Well, so you add it all up, it's like a 70% Christian country.
Yeah,
So it's a very Christian country, 50% black. There was some claims that they got their citizenship removed and they were overlooked due to racism in the UK, and that's why the Falklands got their citizenship, because they were majority white. So there was a racial claim there. But
yeah.
Bermuda is a beautiful place with mansions and beaches and blue water, and who wouldn't love living there?
I'd much rather go to Bermuda than the Falkland Island.
Me too. Maybe not during a hurricane, but the rest of the time, yeah.
Yeah, and you only need is a passport and return tickets. You don't need any visa if you're from the U.S., Canada, or the U.K. to go to Bermuda. And in terms of where you can get there from, they have direct flights from Atlanta, Boston, Newark, the other New York airports, Philly, Washington, D.C., and Charlotte. And they also have flights outside of the U.S. directly from Toronto and London.
Which is pretty crazy that you can fly from London to Bermuda, considering your plane size limitations and the distance it has to go.
I mean, I've heard the Bermuda airport's built pretty much on water. That's because of how small the island is. It's not very big. Like it's only about um, a little over 12 miles long and less than 2 miles wide at its widest point.
Yeah, you're not going to take a 747 there. You're just not.
And also, Bermuda Airport has the highest international landing fees of any airline. So they get you that way too.
They get you coming and going.
Yeah, like they have. I mean, these people are very creative with the way they finance their island, the Bermudans. And you can also take cruises there
During
from
normal times.
from the East Coast and from Ireland.
Well, when will we get back to normal cruises, Nick? Do you have a crystal ball?
I don't know. It's probably not another year, at least.
Let's say like 5 years, because to get back to normal cruises, it's going to be forever, if ever.
But so, if you were to visit Bermuda, what are the things you would do there, particularly?
I mean, do I have your credit card? Because I'd love to get a nice beach house and a boat, go out fishing, hang out on the beach. That would be my ideal way to spend the time. What about you?
Yeah, I'd like to go to the beach. I like to play. I've heard they have really good golf there, actually. So
Oh, there's also a museum, Nick, about the British Navy. You can go look at old boats.
I don't really think I want to go to all the way out to Bermuda to go to a museum, if you know what I mean. Um,
I'd go.
Yeah,
I'd spend a
maybe
morning
it was a
there.
rainy day. I'd go. Apparently, they have some caves that are cool to see. You can do like scuba and snorkeling there. Yeah, I mean they have for how small of an island there is. They have like 9 notable golf courses. So I'd probably play a lot of golf and tennis. Maybe I'd go to some like popular trader bar and chat up the Wall Street guys who live up there and see what they think about the markets and why they ran away to Bermuda. There's probably some good stories there.
And then and then call it a business expense and write the whole trip off.
Yeah, I mean, with the era of work remote,
Save their numbers.
isn't every trip a business trip at this point?
You know, I'm not a tax expert, but you know, it's maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have to talk to your accountant about that. But don't count on us for tax advice. But
Yo, please don't count on us for any advice related to any government official that comes and talks to you about what we said.
or any financial advice too. Please
Yeah, or any
contact your
financial advice.
advisor. Do your own research. Uh, yeah, and then they have a lot of random forts built along the island, and yeah, I mean it's not really a good shopping destination. So if you have like a girlfriend or wife who likes to shop, maybe this is not the place you'd want to go. Just because,
Or maybe that's the perfect place to go, Nick,
why? Because then you just pay way more
because
for
you can't
this.
shop.
No, you'll shop no matter what. You just pay more for it. I mean,
uh,
so what do they eat in Bermuda? Like, what's like a Bermudan dish?
I don't, I, I don't see anything there that I can speak to. Did you see anything in like culinary dishes?
Doesn't seem that much different. It's like than Britain or the Caribbean, really. I
It,
mean,
yeah, it
has
looked like
less,
American tourist food when I looked it up.
yeah, less of that. It has probably less of the spices that you'd find in the Caribbean, maybe. But yeah, it's a lot of fish, and they do drink rum like the Caribbean does. Um, and yeah, it's quite expensive to go here. But I mean, the flights aren't that bad from the East Coast. West Coast is probably similar to flying to other Caribbean destinations. So, but this once you get there though, it's kind of like Cayman. The hotels are expensive, the food's expensive, the green fees are probably expensive. But you don't go to Bermuda to do a budget trip. You go to Bermuda to have a
No,
high
you
experience.
go there to Nick, you go there to set up your foreign bank account and have a nice time while you're there.
And then also, there's two other things Bermuda's famous for. There's Bermuda grass. It's like a type of grass that's commonly used in like things such as Major League Baseball
Golf.
diamonds and golf courses. So yeah, maybe that's why they just have such great grass there. That's why they have a lot of golf courses. And then there also have the Bermuda shorts. If you know what Bermuda shorts are, right?
Yeah, I mean, what a gift to the world, Nick.
Yeah, they're like those old
Do
man
you think
kind
it
of
was
like
just a mark?
khaki golf shorts.
Were
That's what
those actually started in Bermuda?
I don't know what the story behind Bermuda shorts. Um,
Probably started in Hollywood area and just marketed.
well, then why are they called Bermuda shorts?
Why is anything called anything? But maybe the story's great and maybe the story's made up. It's hard to know.
Yeah, I always thought of Bermuda shorts as kind of like old man shorts. Am I wrong for that assumption? Like you would find them at like Tommy Bahamas.
You're not wrong. I don't own any. Do you own any?
No, well, I
Okay.
may have
Well,
one pair of shorts that's kind of like Bermuda shorts. They're kind of like an upscale like pair of khaki shorts. They're kind of a hybrid between regular shorts and Bermuda shorts. But I don't really have any pure Bermuda shorts. They're named after that. I'm reading the history on this right now. Is because they are considered appropriate business attire for men in Bermuda instead of wearing like a normal suit. Like they would still wear a blazer and a dress shirt and knee length socks, but instead of the pants, they would wear Bermuda shorts.
I'm on board for that.
Yeah, it's kind of like how in Hawaii, where you wear Hawaiian shirts there instead of like a traditional dress shirt in the office or in business meetings. I love, I
And
mean,
now that you work from home, no one wears a suit anyways.
but that's kind of like the stereotypical like bad fashion sense tourist, the guy who wears both Bermuda shorts and a Hawaiian shirt. That's like the most
That could
stereotypical
be
like
us, Nick.
male tourist outfit, like historically. Am I wrong on that?
I don't know, but if we go to Bermuda someday, we should both dress that way.
What, Hawaiian shirts and Bermuda shorts?
I'll make that deal with you right now,
Yeah,
Nick.
I remember when I was a kid, like between the ages of say like 7 to like 14, like I really liked Hawaiian shirts, and I wore them quite a bit, even when I wasn't in Hawaii. And I kind of stopped wearing them because they kind of went out of style outside of Hawaii. But they're nice shirts, actually.
Yeah, I had some too. I had a puka shell necklace when I was little.
Oh yeah, I had
Did
one
you
of
have one?
those like when I was like 11. But I never really liked wearing necklaces, so I kind of stopped wearing it. The only necklaces I kind of wear now is a gold cross chain, but even I don't wear that every day.
Just because you're Italian. Is that you're Italian or you're Portuguese?
Well, I'm both, but I think that is that's
That's
I
why I
just
asked which one is it.
it's probably an Italian thing, if I had to guess. It might be both of them. I mean, and the Spaniards do it too. The Southwest
Yeah,
is,
the whole Catholic world does it.
yeah. Well, you know who does it more gaudy is actually the Russian Orthodox. They have the really thick chain and like diamond like thing, and they'll have like a pendant like this big, and they'll wear it under their shirts, and they're like, yeah. So it's basically a non-Protestant thing, I think.
Okay, well, with that bombshell, you guys, if you're listening, you can reach out to us at nick@nothingexempt.com or brian@nothingexempt.com. And please review the show on the comments below. And don't worry, we will get that website back up if you haven't already. I mean, if it's not already back up by the time you see this or listen to it. And please send us suggestions for the next show. You got anything, Nick?
I want to go to Bermuda one day. Actually, it'd be fun. It was on my list of places to go, especially now that I went to Cayman, which was my last trip pre-pandemic. Was going to the Cayman Islands, at least internationally. I've done some domestic road trips the last year or so, but uh, that so yeah, this is one place that is closer to the top of my list more than I thought it would be. Uh, yeah, I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts on Bermuda?
No, I agree with you. I want to go there too. Okay, guys. Thanks for watching or listening. We'll see you soon. Bye.